How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the show. We're your hosts, Cohn, Rob Schuh. This is the Schuh Show. And the name of the show today is we're revisiting the 49ers' path to the playoffs, because they do have a path to the playoffs. But first, we want to remind you of something you should do after the show. Rob?
Yes, indeed. After the show, there's another show. After the show after the show happens on my channel. So don't forget, after the show, jump over to Rob Schuh on YouTube, and then we go live again.
So let's dive right into it. We're talking playoffs for the 49ers. At the beginning of the season, they were talking Super Bowl. Now it's like maybe wild card spot. Probably not the number 5 seed, although, dreams do happen. But it seems like they're competing for those last 2 spots along with 4 other teams. How do you see it?
Feels like a 4-team race at this point. There are 4 likely teams that are vying for those last 2 wildcard spots. And, acknowledge anything can change. It could certainly change from week to week. Somebody who is riding high right now could fall off completely, right? Teams are capable of incredible losing streaks. We know this all too well this season. But it appears that the 4 teams in the best shape for the 6th and the 7th seed are as follows. You have the Saints, who are currently 1 game ahead of the 49ers, sitting in that 6th seed. You have the Panthers, who are a half game ahead right now. And then you have the Vikings, who have the same record. And we play them in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, the debate is which of these 4 teams do you view to be the most talented? Which do you see to be the most consistent? Which do you think has the greatest chance of really competing for that spot, those 2 spots?
Jeez. My gut tells me New Orleans and Minnesota, but San Francisco isn't that far off either one. I don't really take Carolina seriously, although they are 5-5, but New Orleans is just a really good team. Even though Trevor Siemian isn't a good quarterback, they're a really good team with a really good coaching staff that knows how to win. And then Minnesota is a lot like the 49ers. So I think the Niners are definitely in the thick of it. You don't look at it and be like, oh yeah, they're at a tier above their competition, but they're no worse.
No, they're not. For New Orleans, for me, the toughest part of that is not having a consistent starting quarterback. To me, that the most important position within the team, most important position in the NFL, that you could compensate for that. They have an elite defense, no question about that. They have an elite play caller and head coach in Sean Payton, who is capable of designing an offense that works around that deficiency. But man, that's a big deficiency to have when you don't. And
he's 0-2 so far this year, so I guess you got a good point.
Yep. Yeah. That for me is why I actually think Carolina stays in the hunt is Cam Newton. They have a decent defense. It's not New Orleans level, but it's pretty good. They have some injuries that have taken them down a peg. They started off gangbusters on defense and since then have sort of leveled out. But they have Christian McCaffrey. If Cam Newton regains a little bit of his form, that's a team that, and the big piece for me is the 49ers don't play them. There's no way to make up any ground against them. That's the case for the Saints and the Panthers.
I don't really think, I guess I haven't done much research on the Panthers because the Niners don't play them this year, but I'm looking at them and they do have the number 2 defense in the league in terms of yards allowed, 6 in terms of points allowed. So that's something. And their offense is really bad, but now they've
been missing McCaffrey for a long time.
Absolutely. So this is actually they're kind of like the Niners. They could get hot down the stretch.
Yes. And then the Vikings, I agree with you that they are like the 49ers, just sort of inconsistent. They have
similar
so much
quarterbacks,
talent.
similar schemes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But more talented skill position players at some critical positions, you could argue. I mean, Dalvin Cook, right? One of the best in the league to do it. Yeah. Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
One of the best receivers out there.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly Debo is playing above that right now. And when you combine his receiving skills with his skills as apparently a running back, I would take him over Justin Jefferson right now. Right. But as purely as a receiver,
magic skills
Yeah. And then you look at so if we look at those and we acknowledge that those are tough, the Vikings, we're going to have an answer about that because we play them in 2 weeks. Right. Yep. So that will decide a lot about Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then you look at the remaining teams. Any of these teams seem like they could claw back in your opinion? The Falcons, it is perplexing how the Falcons, after watching them last night, how do they have 4 wins? It's kind of crazy. I really want to, I wish I had your father on right now so I could ask him his opinion. He does seem to have an irrational disdain for both the Falcons.
It's funny. My dad came over for dinner last night. My wife made us burgers. And
nice.
we had the game when he goes, "Oh, Matt Ryan, he's a loser." Again, I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
I love it.
He was so bad last night. Retire.
Well, I guess I used to think it was an irrational hatred of, not hatred, but an irrational disdain for Matt Ryan and the Falcons. After watching it last night, maybe it's a rational disdain for Matt Ryan.
I got a team that's lurking, kind of like the Niners. Now the Niners beat this team, but like the Niners, they've won 2 of their last 3. Philly,
the Eagles.
Philly. I like their quarterback. He's kind of like what I think Trey Lance would be, at least early on in his career. I like him a lot, Jalen Hurts, and that team is interesting. So they're 4-6. The Niners are 4-5. They're right there.
It is interesting, and you would think he's going to continue to progress as the year goes by.
I mean, let me look at his numbers real quick. Jalen Hurts, his former 2nd-round pick, his quarterback rating is 91. I mean, everyone's going gaga over Mac Jones and his 94 rating. This guy's got a 91.9 rating, and he runs. I mean, he's pretty good.
He is.
Good. Yeah.
He scores me a lot of points in fantasy in
one
of my
making
leagues.
Like $1 million this year. I mean, he's a good story.
And the other team,
hold on. Let's go. Okay, so there's a 4-team race, but let's look at it from like the perspective of what the Niners' schedule is. Like, what games do they have to win? What games might they lose? So hold on, let me pull that up. Starting with this week, it seems like if the Niners lose this week, the path of the playoffs becomes real difficult. I think you kind of have to beat Jacksonville.
Have to.
So the Niners have these 3 games: Jacksonville, Atlanta, and Houston. I think those are must wins. Must wins. And so the other games are home against Minnesota, in Seattle, in Cincinnati, at Tennessee,
on a short week,
at LA. So that's what, 5 games? Minnesota, Seattle, Cincinnati, Tennessee, LA. The Niners have to win what? 3 of those 5?
Yeah, they can only drop 2 going forward.
Okay, so they got to beat 3 of those 5. They can do it. It's doable.
Definitely doable.
It's doable. Yeah.
The only other team that I see that could climb into that race is Seattle. I'm just hesitant to ever count out Russell Wilson. He's back. They don't look like a complete team, but they also strike me as the type of organization that can turn it on at some point.
You know, the vibe they're giving me this year, at least, is kind of like that team where it feels like a lame duck year, in the sense that there might be big changes next year. Will the coach be there? Will the quarterback be there? And if those 2 won't be there, will anyone be there? I think it must be kind of weird in that locker room right now. Like, what is this team, and what's the vision for the future?
Yeah.
We suck right now. People are mad. So I don't really know where that team's going. That team looks real weak.
And Chris Carson did just have season-ending neck surgery today. So that's not helpful. The only one, honestly, though, the only one that feels completely counted out is Detroit. Everyone else feels like they have some mathematical shot at the playoffs. Obviously, Detroit does not. But everybody
else have
a
mathematical chance of the playoffs, but they're horrendously bad.
Yeah.
All right.
They're trying for that 0-16-1 season, it would seem.
Okay. You know how the Niners kept saying, like, we could easily be 5-0. We could easily be 6-0. It started to sound ridiculous as they lost game after game after game. But then they just dismantled the LA Rams, that a lot of people think are a Super Bowl contender. And now you think, were they right? Like, could they easily have done this every week? What do you think?
That was my immediate reaction when I watched. I was elated for beating LA. No question. That was fantastic. I celebrated the win. I didn't question the win. I didn't second guess it. But I also, in the back of my mind, there was a loud voice that was like, this is who I thought you were the entire season. This is who the 49ers convinced me that they were in the preseason. This is the team I expected to see on a week-to-week basis. And that's why I was so frustrated every time we saw something different. Based on the way that they just completely destroyed LA, it's fair to ask the question, if they played that way, if they continue to play that way, are they capable of beating anybody?
Well, I think, look, of course they're capable of beating anybody. They proved it in this game, and this is a team that went to the Super Bowl. They were 13-3 that year. There's a lot of the same players in there. This is a very talented team with a certain degree of pedigree. Not championship pedigree, but a certain degree of pedigree. And the question is, like, why can't they do it every week? What is up with this team? And I think it comes back to the psychology of the locker room right now. I just said that the Seahawks kind of feel like they're in a lame duck year. Well, don't the 49ers? I mean, it's not that Kyle Shanahan's on the hot seat, although if he, loses a bunch of games, who knows? But it's that Jimmy Garoppolo is a lame duck this year. The locker room believed in him. And to win in the NFL, you have to have a starting quarterback that you believe in and that you rally around. And he's not a great starting quarterback, but you know what? It worked, and they believed in him. And Kyle Shanahan really emasculated him this year.
Yes.
He made it so that the locker room couldn't rally behind him. And no one knew who the quarterback was going to be going into the season. And it's week to week, really. Like, Jimmy played well last week. If he loses to the Jaguars, the questions come back up. So I think this season, this team is full of a bunch of vets that don't understand what the vision is for the present or the future. And that's why you see a flat team weekly. Because who's the quarterback? What's the future? Am I going to be here next year? If Jimmy Garoppolo, who's playing pretty damn well, isn't satisfying the team and they're going to push him out for some rookie who's proven nothing, then where do I stand? I think it's, you know what this season reminds me of? 2014. 2014, because everyone knew that was pretty much a lame duck year for Jim Harbaugh. Was a really talented team. They had the number 5 rated defense, and they finished 8-8. They also, I want to say, at one point were 7-5. Okay, the Niners are 4-5 right now. That 2014 Niners team was 5-4. They went to 7-5 and then fell apart. That's when they lost at Thanksgiving. So keep that in mind, that this team is basically hanging by a thread, and every win keeps it together. But it could all fall apart like it did in 2014.
Yes, I do think, I can't say it's a lame duck year in the same way that it is for Seattle, but I agree with your take on Kyle Shanahan and what he did to Jimmy. Yeah,
it's a lame duck year for Jimmy.
100%. There's very few. There's a 1% chance that Jimmy does anything this year that would keep him around on the San Francisco 49ers. And I think he knows that. And that does make it tough for people to rally behind him in the locker room. It does make it tough for him to try and be the face of the offense or the face of the team. It makes it near impossible for him. But what I sense from the 49ers is that, yes, they came out this season unsure of their identity, unsure of who the leaders were, unsure of the direction, and that bled into their performances. What I saw against LA was such the performance that it makes you wonder if it could serve as the catalyst for change, if it could serve as the spark that was needed to reignite the locker room and show them who they are this year. That, yes, it's going to be a different team this year, but who they have in the locker room right now is good enough to compete with anybody.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. They need to prove that they can do this again against Jacksonville. If they lose to Jacksonville or they struggle against Jacksonville, all these things pop back up again.
Yeah. My fear is that it was, and this is, the fear that I'm admitting. It's not what I think. It's what I fear. My fear is that it was a matchup, that it was the Rams are built.
I see it.
The Rams are built to get after the passer, and they are not built to stop the run. The Jaguars have, I think, the fourth best defense against the run, as surprising as that may be, when it comes to average yards per carry against them. And so this is going to be a tough matchup. This will help us define who these 49ers are. And the question that I have is, can they keep the identity that they found for themselves Monday night going forward? And we get our first answer on
Sunday.
Sunday.
Kyle. Like that identity that they found is just Kyle calling his offense correctly. So that comes down to him. But I think the part that I'm looking for with the players is how much will they stick together?
Right.
Because when you're all in it together and there's a clear vision for the team, then you can handle some losses. But I remember 2014, they went to New Orleans and beat the Saints in overtime. The Saints were really good, and every time they would win a game that year, they would say stuff after the game like, well, good to put that talk to bed. I mean, we're back and we're back to, but it wasn't. It was always right under the surface. Because those things don't go away. Everyone understands there's something's wrong, something's off. It doesn't feel like it felt. This is the way I look at it. There was something very pure about the Shanahan era from 2017 to 2020. It was a bunch of young guys. They brought them together. Everyone felt like there was a family, and players, coaches did right by players. Something's different about this year. The players believed in Jimmy. The coaches said they believed in Jimmy. Then they traded 3 first-round picks for his replacement, and players are like, whoa, wait a second. Did you lie to us? We really thought we all believed in each other. And now you're telling me you don't believe in Jimmy? Well, and for this kid, who the hell is this kid? He didn't even play last year. He's from D2. I can understand it's a very old team that's been together a long time, feeling like the rug got pulled out from underneath them by their coach, who always said he was all in with them.
Yeah, for the 1 year guys, that has to be true. That there's, their money is being messed with at this point, right? The worse that the 49ers do, the worse that those free agent contracts are going to look like for those 1 year veterans. And those are not like 1 year veterans that are role play. There are a lot of key players on 1 year deals, a lot of respected players in the locker room.
Josh Norman, K'Wan Williams, Jaquaski Tart. I mean, on and on.
Yeah. DJ Jones, right? Like, I can sense that unsurety that exists. I don't get the sense of it being as dysfunctional as it seemed in 2014.
They just won.
A loss to Jacksonville could quickly turn me back to 2014.
Remember, they were 7-5 in 2014, and then they lost to Seattle on Thursday Night Football, and it was over. Like, they couldn't take it.
Yeah,
they could not. They were not strong enough of a team to withstand that humiliation. Now the Niners have been humiliated this year, and they bounced back. So maybe they're not 2014.
Right.
I'd like to see them prove that. That team went 8-8, and it was just a mass exodus the next year.
Yes, I mean, we will get a taste of who this 49ers team is on Sunday.
Matthew says solid take last night on Channel 2. Thanks for watching, Matthew. I was on KTVU last night.
Nice.
Jason Applebaum. Jason Applebaum, not Jason Aponte, who's on my channel. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys. All right. We did the road to the playoffs. Oh, did I merge play? Did I merge?
Yeah, a little bit. But, I mean, we covered the idea of the teams that they need to beat in order to get there. I think we
All right, that's fine.
covered
Let's move on then to the return of Greenlaw and Tart. Which one's bigger for the team, and how will both of them help?
Yeah, I don't actually know that either one is going to regain their starting position, at least initially. But I want to know, as someone who's closer with the team than myself, what's your take on that? When they're 100%, let's say that they're not this week. This is the first week that their practice window opened back up. They're coming back in. They could have a little rust they need to kick off. Maybe they're not 100% this week. Maybe they split time. But when they are 100%, does either regain their starting position?
I don't think Greenlaw will. He's a solid player, and I think he's a good linebacker. Some people, there's a segment, Jason Aponte is like, don't get him started on Trey Greenlaw. He doesn't think he's that good. A lot of people think he isn't. I think he's actually solid plus.
I like him sideline to sideline.
I like him too, but Azeez Al-Shaair is making tackles in the backfield. He hits really hard. He's fast. I actually think he's better than solid. He's looking like a terrific player, like the kind of player they were sort of hoping Reuben Foster would be. Not the guy who's in man-to-man coverage down the field, but the guy who is the fastest, most violent.
A thumper.
He's that guy. So nothing against Greenlaw. The thing about, I think Greenlaw's going to have to probably wait his turn, and for good reason. The thing that's interesting is the safety spot. They seem real eager to move on from Tart and start this Hufanga era, as if there is going to be a Hufanga era. And I don't see it. I don't see Hufanga having earned that spot the way Al-Shaair has. What have you seen?
So I would agree on Al-Shaair. He sets a tone, and some of that is true for Hufanga as well, though. But Al-Shaair, the bent face mask on that freaking hit. I mean, come on. That was just, he was laying the wood. It was a tone-setting type of performance by him, and that seems to be something he's able to do on a consistent basis. And I do believe this defense needs someone like that. They need tone setters. They need aggravated energy out there, because at times they play flat, and it's just not the defense that we're used to seeing coming off of 2019 and 2020. So yeah, I think he has earned his spot. The Talanoa Hufanga is an interesting one to me, because from an outside observer's perspective, I'm consistently seeing him around the ball. Yeah. I've seen him out of position on several occasions as well.
He runs around a lot.
Yeah.
You see him around. He's running around a lot, and he's got the long hair. So it's like, boom, there he is.
100%.
But is he in the right spot? I don't know.
Sometimes not.
Is he a top-level athlete? I don't know.
Yeah. But a nose for the ball, I know that that's a cliche that we use in football, but it's one we use for good reason. People with great football instincts can overcome physical deficiencies. I mean, look at Jerry frickin' Rice, for goodness sake, right? Jerry Rice is not the most physically gifted wide receiver, and yet he's the greatest receiver of all time because he worked at it, he had the instincts, he had what it took to become the greatest, and sometimes it doesn't show up in the measurables, but it shows up on the field. He never got tackled from behind, even though he wasn't the fastest wide receiver.
True. No, Jerry Rice was great. Let's talk about Hufanga. The thing with him, I'm not writing him off. It's just that I don't think he may have instincts, but he hasn't taken the ball away from an offense yet. I mean, he hasn't done that yet. So I'm just trying to say, broaden the scope here. So the Niners are trying to take a hard line with Trey Lance, their first-round pick. He's not ready. You know, just because he's the future of the position doesn't mean that we're going to play him until he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, because that wouldn't be fair to the rest of the team. You can't just play a rookie instead ahead of a veteran if he's not as good, because you can't just sacrifice. You know, all these reasons, right? It's not right. It's not
a meritocracy.
It's not. It's a meritocracy, and you don't plan for it's week by week. Okay, fine. Well, then you're telling me Hufanga is better than Jaquiski Tartt? Like, I understand Tartt isn't going to be here next year, most likely, and he's hurt, but Tartt is way better. It's not even close. Like, it's the gap between Garoppolo and Lance is way closer than the gap between Tartt and this rookie 5th-round pick. And the fact that the Niners are trying to like push it as like, actually, Hufanga's closed the gap. He's our guy. Like, I don't know. That feels a little forced, and I wonder how the locker room will take it. And maybe they won't even start Hufanga this weekend. Maybe they'll start Tartt, because you have to. If you're going to start your Jimmy Garoppolo all year, you have to start Tartt as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, could the reasoning be, hey, we're moving on from Tartt. We see some flashes from Hufanga. He may not have more ability than Tartt, but we're moving on from Tartt. But then, that logic doesn't apply, because the same is absolutely true of Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. And so that can't be. Maybe they're attempting to send a message. I would say that I love Jaquiski Tartt and what he brings to the game. I love the communication between he and Jimmy Ward, the fact that they can say things without saying them, right? I mean, they've been together since high school, so they know what each one is doing, and that adds a lot of quality communication to a veteran safety group. But they could be trying to send a message. I haven't seen from Tartt this year, when he's played, quite as much as I saw from him in years past.
Well, look, I was never a big Tartt guy either, but I've grown to appreciate his game. And it's not really, he doesn't make big plays, right? Neither does Ward until this week, but it's the absence of big plays from the offense. And when the Niners defense what their Achilles heel this year has been is the big play. Give up, when they lose, they give up a ton of big plays, penalties, throws down the field. And Tartt, usually when Tartt and Ward are on the field together, they don't give up those plays. Now, both of those guys missed the game against the Cardinals, and Colt McCoy looked like Tom Brady. So, and Hufanga was one of the ones who gave up he gave that long catch to Christian Kirk, I think. Anyway, curious to see. I bet you Tartt starts this weekend.
Interesting. Either way, I hope that Hufanga gets in on some. It seems that they want to play him at times, even if they're going to start Tartt and Jimmy.
This is the same coaching staff and front office organization that wanted Adrian Colbert at free safety over Jimmy Ward for quite a while. So I don't really understand John Lynch's ability to assess the safeties he has, but I'm telling you, if you think Lance hasn't supplanted the vet starter yet, then Hufanga really, 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 really hasn't. Just saying.
That's a fair statement.
I put up a poll the other day, are the Niners good or bad? It was kind of a trick question. I knew the Niner fans would say mostly yes. The correct answer is technically no, since they're 4-5, and at this point in the season, you are what your record says you are. But their relationship to the Mendoza or to the 500 is going to change week to week, and so it's a valid question. Are they good? Are they bad? Or are they neither? What do you think?
I think that we like things simple.
I do.
We want easy answers.
One or two, A or B.
Yeah, good or bad.
A or B.
And the reality is that that's an oversimplification of who the 49ers are, right? They have the same number of wins as the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think that you can actually, with a straight face, say that the 49ers and the Falcons are the same level of team within the NFL, that they have the same potential ceiling. They may be as inconsistent as one another. But when you talk about good or bad, I think it's reductionist not to bring in talent, not to bring in why they're suffering, why they're losing games. And with the 49ers, they're frustrating things that they're shooting themselves in their own foot, right? It seems to be that they are preventing themselves from winning.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of season where if they were to miss the playoffs, there would be outrage locally. And nationally, people would be like, what happened? I mean, no one expects Arthur Smith in his first year to make the playoffs with Atlanta after trading Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley retired. I mean, that's kind of understandable, but year 5, you really have the team you wanted, and you're going to go 8-9, 9-8, and miss the playoffs. That's a scandal, to the point where you're thinking, is this coach the right guy? Is this GM the right guy? Do you really have to change things entirely? If they make the playoffs, maybe not. So that's why I think like mediocre isn't good enough. They're supposed to be double-digit win team. Double-digit win team.
That's a great call out. It's expectations versus reality that's causing such an issue here. That 49ers fans came in believing that we were a certain team, that we were going to be able to compete and make the playoffs and make a run for the Super Bowl. And this rude awakening has really jolted people. I mean, there's some irrationality that's going around. There are 49ers fans who, I get the frustration with our coach and potentially with our front office and maybe wanting to burn it all down to the ground. I understand.
No, but I get where the expectations come from. Year 5, they went to the Super Bowl. I mean, hold on. I mean, the Niners were, who said 2019 vibes? The Niners did. Right. Who sold 94 red jerseys to the fan base? The Niners did.
Yeah. Expectations are fair. I mean, I don't think that that's an argument.
They profited off those expectations. Yeah. They were like, buy your season tickets because we just
100%. They chose players in the draft that they didn't think they needed to contribute this year because they were good, right? They were good enough.
They're just better.
And so I get that has carried over to the calls that you're seeing from a section of the fan base for Kyle Shanahan's head and John Lynch to go and everything. It makes sense. I understand it, but it has led to some irrationality from fans. I mean, I hear sentiment of people rooting for losses because it will then propel us into the future, that the loss will somehow assure them that Jed will see the light and let Kyle Shanahan go at that point, as opposed to it just being a painful loss for our favorite team, not your favorite team.
I get it, though, because like, think about it, man. Like, if they make the playoffs, what does that mean for next year? Like, say they go 10-7, make the playoffs, losing the first round. Does that compel the Niners to bring all the vets back one more time and keep Jimmy Garoppolo? It's not like you developed any of the young guys. Right. So why wouldn't you do that? You just made the playoffs. Are you going to give up now? Maybe next year will be better. So if you make the playoffs, next year's kind of like a nightmare. And then if you miss the playoffs, like, it could be a total reboot. There could be a new coach, a new GM, a new everything, and that's kind of starting over. So it just seems like no matter what the Niners do, if they stay along this path, next year looks kind of murky at best.
It does. I would say the murkier of the two is letting go of the entire front office coaching staff, because I don't trust Jed York to make the correct hire the next time, right? I think that's the darker path. You still haven't developed the rookies. You're now moving on from a head coach that you have had success underneath, and you're relying upon Jed York to bring in the next guy who's going to develop the rookie that hasn't had any development to this point. So if I'm playing the dark path on both of those angles, to me, it's much darker if we end up moving off of our head coach and front office.
Certainly. But I think it's fair for an idealistic fan to sort of root for their team to, build themselves the right way and give themselves a clear vision for a Super Bowl. And this, keeping the team together from 2019, I don't know. It seems like they're kind of settling into 500 territory where they're, they win one, they win some, they lose some. But I think the whole point, the reason fans were so excited about the move up for Trey Lance was it was the Niners saying, we strive for more.
Yeah, we're going all in.
We're going to do this a whole different way and go all in. And now they're like, well, maybe not. I think Niner fans are like, okay, well, it's fair to just be like, let's take this 1 week at a time and not think about the future. But how do you not think about the future? How do you not think about the future when even the most optimistic Niner fan, Rob, you would represent the most optimistic Niner fan. Like,
thank you.
I know you're not like throwing in the towel in this season, but you're not exactly expecting the Super Bowl.
No,
I don't mean to put words in your mouth.
No, I have definitely changed my expectations. I still have hopes. I mean, after watching what I saw on Monday night, I still believe if the 49ers can maintain that identity, they will be in the playoffs. They will be the team that nobody wants to play. And I think they have every chance of making the same type of run that the Packers made when they finally crested the hill with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you're right.
Me too.
This says Rich Eisen dubbed Frank Gore the Inconvenient Truth. What's your nickname for Jimmy Ward? Is it fair for the media to say we miffed on Mac Jones? I don't have a nickname for Jimmy Ward. I'll think about it. But the thing about Mac Jones, I understand that he's playing really well right now. But it seems to me that so is Jimmy, and that their games are similar. And if I understand, like, Mac's younger and he's cheaper, but if you were displeased with Jimmy Garoppolo so much so that you needed to do all this to get the new quarterback, do you really get the same quarterback? I don't see that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. We're going to talk about Mac Jones? Maybe we will.
We are. It's our next topic.
Big Mac. Let's talk about him.
Big Mac. I think it's fair to say that he is, so far, the most successful quarterback from this rookie class, right? Out of the gate.
No question.
But that's also basically what everybody predicted he would be. I do think that what
most
he's
NFL ready, best team. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But most people, I think, admit also that he's exceeded those initial expectations to some degree, right? You may have expected him to have a high floor, but he's got a decently high score.
Won 5 games in a row.
Right.
I mean,
so tip of the cap.
Pretty good.
Big Mac.
Yeah, I would have to say it's pretty good.
How does that performance? How do those expectations change the expectations that national media and 49er faithful should have around Trey Lance?
That's a good question, but it's at the same time it's a little unfair. I mean, you don't draft these quarterbacks based on who's going to be the best their rookie year.
No.
You're trying to figure out who's going to have the best career, and I'm not convinced that it's going to be Mac Jones just because he had the best rookie season. I still would have drafted Trey Lance in the 49ers position.
Yeah.
I don't think that just bringing in like the next version of Jimmy Garoppolo is the way to go. But what the Patriots are proving is you can win with that kind of quarterback at a price point if you build the rest of your team the right way. Like Mac Jones cost them $2.8 million this year. 2.8. And so he's great at that. I mean, he's actually giving them way more than what they're paying for. Way more.
Yes. And they spent the rest of that money, right? They built up the team around. They spent a record number in free agency this year. So they took advantage of that cheap contract.
Like, honestly, they could win the Super Bowl this year. And people would say, oh, it's all Mac Jones. He's one of the first rookie quarterbacks ever. Yeah, he's special, man. But like, it's because the Patriots are doing it the right way. You have a good quarterback at a very low cost. Not at the Niners have the same level of quarterback taking up who's 10 times the price.
Yeah.
And these things matter in football. Some people be like, oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, it's just 2 players, 3 players. It really, really, really matters. I mean, maybe the Niners win the Super Bowl and the Patriots don't this year, and I'll be wrong. But until that happens, I think it matters.
Yeah, I mean, it is asset allocation, and there's no concrete way in which you have to do it in order to win, but you have to manage those assets in a responsible way, right? And to pay a quarterback who has the limitations that Jimmy does, it's irresponsible to dedicate that percentage of your cap dollars to his salary.
Here's the way I look at it. Fantasy, I don't play fantasy football, but fantasy
Sure.
football is all about running backs, right?
Yes.
If you have a bell cow running back, you're in business. If you can get a bell cow running back in like the 10th round of your draft, you win, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Because no one else got one there. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like if you can get a franchise quarterback at $2.8 million a year, oh my God, that's like getting a bell cow running back in fantasy football in the 12th round. That's found money.
Yeah.
So I mean, what the Niners did was they spent their first pick on Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, okay, well, he's gonna have to be great to get a return on investment is what I'm saying. And he's not. Neither's Mac.
The other question I have, and you're totally spot on with that. It was my drafting of Deebo Samuel in the 8th, 9th, and 10th rounds in almost all my leagues.
That's what wins the game for you, and that's what wins the Super Bowl for you.
You have to get
me
value.
In the NFL is how many players are exceeding their contract. When the Niners went to the Super Bowl, Kittle wasn't making anything. Warner wasn't making anything. I mean, that's why they were so special.
Yes.
Mostert wasn't making anything.
They had found value, even though at that time they were still paying Jimmy more than you would have liked to, but it was better.
True.
In relation to the cap than it is now in these years. My other question, though, with Mac Jones is, we got to give some credit to Bill Belichick in his ability to prepare players to execute. So what I wonder is, it's fair to say, was the strategy flawed for the 49ers to give up as much as they did to go up to 3 when you could have stayed put and taken Mac? The question of taking Mac at 3 is less of a real question for me, because I still see the upside of Trey. I think at 3, you're looking for the higher ceiling. But it's fair to say, hey, Niners could have stayed where they were, taken Mac Jones, but could Kyle have developed him and gotten him as ready as Belichick has?
I don't like the Mac Jones thing, because you have Mac Jones. I understand. Here's the way I look at it. You could have traded up for Lance, go up to 3 for Lance. You could have traded up to 10 or something for Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have just stayed there and not taken a quarterback. I mean, everyone's so excited about Mac Jones. Jimmy's 30, and maybe he's not injury prone. I mean, he's healthy now. He still hasn't played. He's only played 40 starts. What is he really? No one really knows what he is. He seems to win a lot. He seems to get good numbers. So what they could have done, and it's not necessarily what I would have done, but I wanted them to draft Kyle Pitts. So I guess it's kind of what I would have done, was you just extend Jimmy. Make him cheap now. If you give him an extension, his cap number could have been like 10 million or less this year. And then he's affordable, and you can build up the rest of your team, and you can draft a backup quarterback in round 2 and protect yourself that way. I mean, that's a sensible way to go about it, but this was a little extreme what they did.
It was. And you may recall, I am on your side with the Kyle Pitts argument. I wrote that article about drafting, why the logical choice was
Garoppolo. Well, maybe he could have used someone like Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. And I mean, that would have been a more reasonable strategy, a less aggressive, more conservative, perhaps.
Najee Harris is killing it. Najee Harris is as good as everyone says he was going to be. What if the Niners had Elijah Mitchell and Najee Harris as opposed to Trey Sermon? I mean, they could run the ball 40 times every game like they want to.
And it's not to say they had all the leverage they needed to get Jimmy to take the lower cap hit, right? I mean, coming off of the 2020 season, if you were going to extend Jimmy and try to bring that cap number down and say, Jimmy, this really, the contract is not reflective of what you're doing on the field.
Right.
They had the leverage then.
I'm just saying, if all of a sudden they like Jimmy Garoppolo, then you didn't need to do this for number 3. I like Trey Lance, but they all of a sudden say, well, you know what? We like Jimmy Garoppolo. All right, well, then you should have helped him out.
Yeah. It certainly, if you were rolling with him the entirety of this season and you basically knew that. But, I mean, we also have to explore the possibility that they didn't realize just how much time Lance was going to need to get to where they think he needs to be, even if they're wrong about that belief.
Or they didn't realize that maybe Kyle's wrong about Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's not all his fault that they lost the Super Bowl, and that maybe Kyle needs to look in the mirror on that one.
Yeah, that certainly would be growth for our coach.
Because my issue with Jimmy is not that he's like a bad quarterback or he's like substandard as a starter. It's just that he's overpaid, and that's the 49ers issue. It's not a Jimmy issue. That's a Niner issue. You gave him this contract based on 5 starts, thinking, oh, well, he's just going to progress, and if he's here now, then he's going to be here. And like, no, you don't know.
Wait
That's
until
what
he
it is. Well,
learns the
Mac Jones, look at
system.
him now. He's going to be, if he's here now, then you don't know. Just
Yeah.
let it play out. But no, the Niners had to make a projection, and he's going to be elite in 2 years. Okay, he's not. You could have had him at a cheaper deal, but no, you broke him off. That's your fault.
Right. And the same logic has to be carried forward to Trey Lance, that just because we're not seeing him now means nothing about his ability to step in at the beginning of next season and take this team to the Super Bowl. He may still be the fantastic talent that I believe him to be. I think that you believe him to be. I'm not putting words in your mouth,
He's still
though.
the most intriguing quarterback prospect from this draft for me. More than Lawrence. I think he's one of the most intriguing quarterback prospects I've ever seen because his skill set, just the skill set, is off the charts. I think it might be the most, the best skill set I've ever seen. Doesn't mean he'll be good. He could die on the vine. Yeah, to use a wine reference. It takes coaching, takes the right environment, takes all that. He could be a delicate Pinot Noir, but he's got it all, man. He has got it all. I'd like to see him put it together.
He doesn't strike me as a thin-skinned guy like a Pinot grape. I feel
like
he's got thick skin. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think he's got body, right? He's a strong cab. He's going to come through in the end.
He's been on the vine quite a long time. Let's talk about this upcoming game. So the Jaguars beat the Bills, which kind of means the Niners should be ready and beware, right?
Yeah, one of the best teams in the league, right? The Bills, definitely up there.
I mean, they could go to the Super Bowl this year if it's not New England or Kansas City.
Absolutely. And Jacksonville was without James Robinson in that game. He tried to go. Something was off. He didn't go. And then Cam Robinson, their starting left tackle, also was out that game with back tightness. Up at the last second, he was down.
Ugh.
So, how did Carlos Hyde and CJ Beathard topple the Bills, right? That's the game where CJ came in and had his two perfect throws. He should have had a touchdown, but it was dropped by the wide receiver, and then there was a penalty, so it didn't work out. But clearly CJ's two completions sealed that win for them. But what did you see in that game? Have you watched enough of it to have a takeaway in your mind as to how in the hell the Bills coughed that one up?
I know a little bit more about Jacksonville than you would expect. I'm a little bit of a Jacksonville expert. Not really an expert. But let me tell you something about that game, all right?
Yeah.
Secret. The Jaguars didn't beat the Bills in that game. The Bills beat the Bills.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but the Bills didn't show up. The Jaguars don't beat anybody, okay? The Jaguars freaking suck. Sorry. If they're watching, they would probably be like, we freaking suck. They know it. They were probably the most dysfunctional organization in the league. And I don't even think it's close. I mean, Detroit is pretty bad, but Detroit's pretty bad too. I'm not going to make excuses for Detroit. But look at Jacksonville. They bring in Urban Meyer, who is just a complete joke so far. I mean, within a month, he's really a joke. And all that cachet he had from college, players don't care. No. Players were good in college too. Like, all they care about is, are you going to help me get that next contract? And being on Jacksonville with him the answer is no. So, I mean, I think they're pretty much all looking at him like, well, you are a joke and so are we. So the fact that they have Trevor Lawrence like that, he can't overcome that horrendous debacle of an organization. So the only way the Niners lose this game is if they beat themselves. And they've done that. They have the capability. They could go to Jacksonville, turn the ball over 3 times and lose. But they have to know that that's the only way they're going to lose this game. Jacksonville isn't even there anymore. That team is done. They are ready for next year. So just don't beat yourself.
Yeah, I had to do
decent defense.
Definitely decent defense. And that was, to me,
but let's not overstate what Jacksonville is offering here.
No.
They suck.
They are a bad team. When, if we want to get reductionists on it.
I mean, that's why it's not like a one-off year. They freaking suck, and they suck every year.
Yes. And to your point around Urban Meyer, like, nobody's playing hard for him at this point after everything that's going on.
I see him for what he is.
Yeah. From what I saw,
college players looked at him as like, okay, you can help me get drafted high. Being on your team helps me helped me get money. But now, is he helping anyone get money right now in Jacksonville? Also, I think he he was a celebrity in college, right? He ain't a
Yes.
celebrity now. He's just some bad coach in Jacksonville. I'm sure the
Yeah.
people of Jacksonville don't even care about him. They're like, oh yeah, there's that disappointment that we spent a lot of money on. Like being in the NFL can be very unglamorous.
It
And
can.
I think he
Especially
was
when you're embarrassing your team like he did with that debacle on the bar scene.
these guys have big egos, and being at Ohio State was like an ego boost every day. And then you said, well, now I want to go to the NFL and take my ego to the next level. And then you're in Jacksonville and
Yeah.
you're 2-7, and you didn't quite fathom what a shot to your ego this entire experience would be. I don't know if how much longer he can take it, man.
That's fair. And I agree with you in the idea that the 49ers, the way in which they lose is they beat themselves. In
Right.
going back through and
it.
rewatching the Jacksonville game against Buffalo, and then in reading up on the breakdowns of the game, it did seem as if they came out with the right game plan on defense. They apparently ran cover 2 shell for the vast majority of it, just to take away the long
Take away
ball.
those deep shots.
Yeah, take away those deep shots. And so, which is similar to what teams are doing against KC, right?
That's right.
It's sort of the new way in which to hold back these elite offenses.
Make them dink and dunk. Make them play like Mac Jones.
Buffalo needed to be patient. They needed to dink and dunk, and they weren't. Josh Allen got impatient. He tried to force things. He tried to make plays happen. And it was another sort of trap game for them. They came in double-digit favorites, right? Everybody thought that they were going to dominate, mostly healthy, but they weren't along the offensive line. They actually had essentially 3 backups in the game because the left guard and the right tackle were out, and then the right guard slid over to right tackle to cover. A new left guard and right guard came in. So they had that, but the Jags defense was able to take full advantage. The 49ers are set up to dink and dunk, right? That type of a defense is the kind of defense the 49ers want you to play against them. They have almost zero interest in taking those deep shots. And so, but I do worry that part of what the Jags did that completely dismantled Buffalo was the sacks. I mean, they were getting after it. Josh Allen was all over Josh Allen. He was hitting him. 4 sacks, 8 QB hits. If that happens on Sunday, you know the kind of game Jimmy Garoppolo has if he takes 4 sacks and 8 hits. That's the type of game he throws it straight to a linebacker.
Well, and again, this is all in Kyle Shanahan's hands to avoid that. Like, run the freaking ball, dude. How many times does everyone have to tell you to run the damn ball? That's how you avoid that. But if Elijah Mitchell doesn't play, is he going to trust Trey Sermon, who he has decided he doesn't trust for no good reason? And if he doesn't, then there's no way they're going to get more than 25, 28 carries, and they're going to have to drop back 35, 40 times, and anything could happen.
But that could be enough to beat this team. I mean, that really is how bad they are. When you look at what the Bills did, it was atrocious. They had Singletary 6 carries for 16 yards. Moss 3 carries for 6 yards. Only positive was Josh Allen 5 carries for 50 yards. He does what he does.
You got to run the ball against a team that's 2-7 because
carries.
Oh, sorry.
No. I was just echoing that.
You got to run a ball against a team that's 2-7 because stopping the run is like shoveling coal. It's very hard work, and it's exhausting, and it's not glamorous. And bad teams will be like, I don't want to do this. 2-7. What's the freaking point? It's really hard. We're losing. You break their will. So you got to make them keep stopping the run in the second quarter, in the third quarter, and then their offense goes on the field and go 3 and out. Okay, now more of it. And it doesn't matter how many points you score. You got to score 17 probably to win this game. Just make them keep stopping the run because eventually they'll break. They'll break.
Yeah, the Bills gave up on it. I mean, in a game that was never out of reach, right? Never more than a single possession, never more than a field goal down. They attempted 47 passes. They did what the Niners did
against the Arizona Cardinals a week and a half ago. They're like, oh, whatever. We can just play however, whatever. Doesn't matter.
They attempted 47 passes. If the 49ers attempt anywhere near that, it's a disaster. But again, that goes back to, I think this does fall on the 49ers and their ability to win this game or lose it of their own volition.
How do the Niners win? Run the damn ball. How do they lose? Pass the damn ball. And it's not Jimmy's fault. It's really not Jimmy's fault. Like when they lost, he was actually pretty good against Arizona. There was the fumble from Debo, the fumble from Kittle, the 5 sacks. Now he walked into a few of those, but it's the whole offense's inability to execute pass plays, not the quarterback. The whole offense's inability. Once they get to the run game, the offensive line is an asset, and everything works from there.
It has to be about running the ball on Sunday, regardless of whether Mitchell, who I gather is now doubtful after today's designation, whether it's Jeff Wilson Jr. or finally getting some more carries for Sermon. You have to shoot for that 30 carries yet again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, prediction time. How you see it going down?
Yeah, the 49ers need to avoid that same fate that the Buffalo Bills fell to. I say that the keys to the game are a little redundant of what we were just talking about, but it is that simple. It's the 49ers making it clear that their identity is running the ball, and they need to run the ball all day. You have to you found an identity when you were playing the Los Angeles Rams. You inspired yourselves, you inspired the fan base, you inspired the coaching staff. So hopefully Kyle comes back out with a bit more of his creative gameplay, the run design. Somebody in one of my comments on my show was saying that Kyle was in his bag like there were chips at the bottom. And that seemed very fitting. He needs to find some chips yet again Sunday morning.
I like that. I also want to see just how the team comes out. Because if this is the 2014 49ers, they come out flat. Yeah. You know what? The 2021 49ers come out flat every single week except for last week. That's what they do. They came out. I mean, they looked good in week 1 against the Lions. They did fumble the first freaking snap of the season. But after that, they looked good for the first half. But from week 2 to last week, every week looked awful by halftime and had to get it together after that. So I'd like to see that not happen because short week, cross country, 10 a.m., West Coast team. They've done it like 8 times. I think it would actually, if it was a close game at halftime, the Niners and the Jaguars were within a score of each other at halftime, you wouldn't even be surprised. You'd be like, well, here we go. Oh, okay, last week was just because last week it was great, but it's fair to wonder if you can replicate it. Like there were a lot of things that were unique about it. It was Monday Night Football. It was the Rams. Stafford gave the game away instantly. It wasn't that Jimmy Ward made superhuman plays. It's that Stafford was like, what? You were worse than Jared Goff. You literally threw it right to Jimmy Ward down the field. And then the other one, the guy dropped and gave it to Jimmy Ward. And the game was over right there. So you're not going to get two interceptions in the first. Well, you could.
You might. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is throwing 1-to-1 TD to interception ratio. So
if Trevor Lawrence just doesn't give the game away in the first 2 series, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond?
It's going to be tougher because even if they stick to the run, as we said earlier, the Jags are, I have it here in my notes, actually 5th best against the run in average yards per carry, allowing only 3.9 yards a pop.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter against LA. Well, that didn't. Right. Against LA, you had both of the backs under 3.5 yards per carry. Jeff Wilson Jr. under 3. Kyle just stuck with it. So that's the key to me is
don't try to be pretty on offense.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter if it's 3.5 yards carry.
It doesn't matter. If you score 17, you probably win. If you score 20, you definitely win, as long as you don't turn the ball over. The only way they score more than 13 points is if you give them the ball. If they have a long kick return, if you have a fumble and they recover, if Jimmy throws a pick. So don't give them the opportunity. Just play clean, boring football. No one's watching. It's Jacksonville. You're not like the game of the week. Just go in there, win 20-10, and come home.
Yeah. And Agnew is no slouch, the returner for the Jags. He has a 102-yard kick return. I'm going to talk about him next on my show after this show. Join me there. But yeah, so on defense, though, on the other side of the ball, so if the 49ers stick to the run, they don't turn the ball over, they play solid special teams and contain Agnew, what do they need to do on defense?
What do they need to do on defense?
To me, it seems like you got to
show up. They need to show up. They need to show up. That's one of the worst offenses in the league. They're scoring 16 points a game. Just show up. Hold on. Why does Jacksonville suck so bad on offense? They have a good running game.
James Robinson is a good back.
Good back. They have a pretty good offensive line. Good quarterback. They have no receivers. They have Marvin Jones, a little old. They got a tight end who's okay. They got Laviska Shenault, who's not good. I mean, they don't have any weapons.
No, Agnew is coming up, but he's got terrible hands so far this year.
It's a lot like the Bears. Promising young quarterback who can move around, maybe a good running back too. Some good stuff on defense, and that's about it. So, yeah, the Niners made it interesting with the Bears.
They did.
They made
the Jags
are
averaging giving up almost 26 points a game. To me, the 49ers only lose this if they shoot themselves in the foot. I am predicting that they won't. So just to give the official prediction out there, I said it off the cuff earlier in the week, but after doing my research, I'm sticking with it. 34-21. I think the 49ers overcome that big spread of 6.5 points. If I were betting this game, I'd take them with the spread.
Perhaps. Jacksonville could just give up and fold and give up 34 points. I'm going to take a lower scoring game, 17-13 Niners. 17-13. But 34-21 would be a lot more exciting.
Yes,
Sean says 31 free agents, 2022 Trace starts. Use Jimmy Garoppolo $26 million and get cornerback free agent Mitchell, Williams, Debo, Juice, Bosa, Warner, Ward. Add pieces with Jimmy Garoppolo money. Resign Quan. You think it's going to be if this team goes to the playoffs and they just get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? Is that a popular move? If this team goes to the playoffs, do you just reload it seems like it's a very difficult transition next year if they make the playoffs. It seems like you got to bring the team back.
I don't think it is. I think that the NFL is such a business that the players understand that aspect of it. I think they all saw it's part of the reason why this season has been so FUBAR, right? Is because of the mixed message that has been sent to the locker room. I believe that the rest of the team knows the writing is on the wall for Jimmy G, and it would take a miracle, potentially a Super Bowl appearance or a Super Bowl victory to bring him back as the starter next year.
Okay, but here's the thing. If they move on from Jimmy G, how many of these vets are going to want to come back and play with Trey Lance? What's the team going to look like next year with Trey Lance? How's Deebo Samuel going to feel? Let's put it this way. Everyone assumes that everyone wants Trey Lance to be the quarterback.
Right.
Deebo Samuel is on a record pace right now. I don't think he's mad about the quarterback. I don't know. But I don't think he's mad about the quarterback. Let's say Deebo Samuel goes for like 2,000 yards this year, and they change the quarterback, and it's just a little off next year. Is he going to be happy about that? Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. I think he's going to be happy as long as he gets his bag. I think Deebo is clearly out for cashing in, as he should, he absolutely should, as he deserves.
That's true. Yeah, we'll see. Okay.
If he's making 18 mil a year, I don't think he cares who's throwing him the ball.
Possible. With Mac, you are literally watching Belichick use Mac the exact same way he envisioned with Jimmy. Mac is Jimmy G 2.0. Only difference is first round pick versus second. Yeah, and I think what it sounded like they were kind of interested in trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. They would have paid him a lot more than they're paying Mac Jones. They would have had to give up like a 6th round pick or something easy, something low that the Niners weren't willing to accept. But so they spent a first on Mac Jones. They don't have to spend much money on him. It worked out. But yeah, same thing.
Yeah, it does make now. It makes a little more sense that they were in fact inquiring about Jimmy G, and you see what the fit would have been in their offense, and he probably would have been as successful, if not more so.
You got to remember too that Bill Belichick won those first 3 Super Bowls with Brady when Brady was very cheap.
Yes.
He was a 6th round pick who was very cheap, and he became the greatest quarterback of his era, and they paid him all that money. But I think if Belichick could have it his way, the way he wants to build a team is with a quarterback who's pretty cheap. And I get it because really you don't have to spend a lot of money on a quarterback. And I think a lot of teams feel like as long as if I overspend on a good quarterback, it guarantees me something. Yeah, mediocrity, maybe. But that's not the way Belichick goes after it. I like that.
I also, you have to recognize that with his tenure there in New England, he has such a rare level of confidence and such a rare level of flexibility in everything that he does, that if he wants to build a team in a certain way, he just goes about it and the fan base gets right behind him because there's a long track record of success.
He's like, yeah, this was the formula from 2001 to 2004. We're going to go. Okay, yeah, that did work from back then. Okay,
great. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, yeah, okay, I remember that. Ellis says, if the Niners succeed in the run game, they're good. Pretty much. That's why the potential absence of Elijah Mitchell this week is so, I don't want to say intriguing. It's intriguing from my perspective. It's probably worrisome from a fan's perspective.
Very much so. What's your gut say? If you had to bet right now on whether he plays or not, you think he's?
I can't remember the last Niners player who was listed as doubtful. Actually, not going to play.
Yeah.
Chris says, I think we keep it up this week 38-10 Niners with 175 plus rush yards. That'd be cool. I mean, they definitely could do that. It's the freaking Jaguars. You just did it to the Rams. Do it again. Yeah. Do it again.
It would be very impressive against that run defense, though. I mean, it is stouter than people want to give it credit.
But again, this is a team that could quit at home in the second quarter. Like, make them quit. Orbital Death says, Grand Rob, thanks for the insights and entertainment. Kyle needs to stick to the run, and the Niners are offensive identity or play the rookie simple. Orbital Death.
Orbital Death.
Orbital Death. All right. Well, that's our show. Thanks for watching. Rob is going to do the after show, the late show, the show right next on his channel. Rob, tell him where to go.
Head over to my channel. It is just Rob Schuh. You see the name right down there. Google that. If you don't already subscribe to my channel, then get over there and do that. We're going to go live. I'm just going to take 2 minutes to get a drink of water, and then we're going immediately live over there with a few more topics that build right on off of what Grant and I talked about.
Have a great time, everyone. I'm going to go lift weights.
Nice.